Aha, I think we're working. TK,
Yeah.
I
Hi.
can see your cap.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, guys, welcome. Stack and Tilt. This is our live chat. Me and Rob are back. We have a special guest, Thomas Klang from Sweden. Thanks for coming on, Thomas.
Thank you.
So Rob's back. We've just finished our Zoom chat with Golf Tech Singapore. It's 10 p.m. here in Singapore. I know we're a few minutes late starting. Technical issues, but we're on. Finally, we're on this time. So in terms of what we've got planned for you guys today. So first of all, we're going to do a little chat with Rob. I forgot to ask him about putting last time. So we're going to do a little bit about putting. Then we're going to have a chat with TK, find out about his stack and tilt background, his coaching background, and the fact that he's still coaching now in Sweden, which is great. We're not coaching in Singapore, unfortunately, yet. And then we're going to have a Q&A at the end. So guys, I know you've got some questions coming up in the chat here. We'll go through some of those, but at the end, we will have some time to answer your questions. So first of all, something that did come up last week, Rob, was your swing. If you remember, we were talking about your swing.
Yeah. That's really cruel.
But I thought I'd just show the guys. This is something that came up, and this is Rob when he had hair. 2002, yeah. Rob.
There you go. 2002, that was a long time ago.
Remember this
what
one,
a beauty, Rob. What a beauty.
So I think he's reaching for the pineapples here. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's the pineapple swing.
So I thought I'd just show you that because that did come up in the chat, and I thought I wanted to try and find it just to bring that up. So in the end, the swing was a bit better than the pineapple backswing attempt. So not bad.
Yeah, look at the extent. They go to P4 on the actual swing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like P4.1, that thing's extended nicely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good job it's teed up, obviously. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah, this is the highlight. One of these. This one here. Look at that. That is a
oh
beauty,
my god,
that is an absolute beauty. 2002. There's a timestamp. So anyway, Rob, I forgot to chat to you about putting last time. I know we were talking a lot on here about the full swing, but I just wanted to get a couple of insights into putting and whether you have a system for putting and how that works. What sort of things do you focus on first when someone first comes for a putting lesson?
Yeah, there's definitely a system, just like full swing. We've got to figure out what the fundamental tasks are. So we talk about start line, speed, green reading. Yeah. I've been involved with aim point for maybe 8 years now, 7 or 8 years now. I just did that when I was in Portugal. So we talk green reading, obviously start line and speed. And there's a number of, as you know, with a full swing, right? There's so many different pieces that can affect all of those. So it's a complex puzzle, but at the same time, we start with the basics and we have the grid. We have we've seen these mats. Some people will be familiar with the concept of these are Phil Kenyon's Visio mats. Phil makes some of the best putting training aids out there. And there are rules that you have to conform to. Again, putting is, people are unique in many ways in terms of how they get the job done, but there's certainly some things that we have to keep an eye on. So they're the basics, start line.
So that mat you've got there, Rob, that's like the grid for putting, right? So some of you guys may have seen the grid for the full swing. This is like the grid for putting. I think it's a really good training aid. I think a lot of people are led to believe in putting, Rob, that the putter should go straight back and straight through.
Yeah, they are. And, I think in putting, there's actually a lot of common myths that we're forever trying to debunk and kind of get people's head round, just like full swing, right? There's so many things that people have got wrong in their head to start with. And then from that, the belief system they have is leading them down a wrong path, like straight back, straight through. Yeah. You have to accelerate the putter head through the ball. The ball always breaks towards mountains, or it always breaks towards water, and all the other naff stuff you hear on the commentary is just, sending people down a bad path. So a lot of the time you're sort of clearing a lot of that out to start with. And then you get to work, and of course there's lots of different potential pieces to change, but we start with the priority, just like you would with full swing. Figure out what someone's tendencies are, and get them working towards something more consistent. I've been helping a couple of people, actually. I noticed on the chat, I see Megan's joined the call. Nice to see you, Megan. And there's some familiar faces in there. Liz the Wiz, Yumi's there, and my man Billy and Michael Manavian. How are you guys?
Awesome. So basically what you're saying, Rob, is you have a system for putting.
There's always a system. Everyone has a system. I mean, even these people that stand there and tell you that, you know, you don't have a system for golf because everyone's different. I mean, I've never heard so much nonsense in my life. You know, you're going to get me started, right? I'm only on the tee. This is only tee. The idea that everyone's different, so everything's okay because someone did it once, right? I mean, it's just the most nonsensical thing you could ever hear. But there's people running scared from a system like ours, which teaches great information across a worldwide network of instructors who you know, have a consistent message and help their students. I'm not saying you have to know stack and tilt to help people play better golf, but it certainly helps. Yeah,
I agree.
So
okay, Rob, so guys, if you want to find out a little bit more about putting, I think Rob offers online lessons. If you head over to Rob's website, I'll post the link in the description. I've not done that yet, but I will do, to Rob's website. I think you also can get hold of the Visio mats as well.
Yeah, if you're in Asia, I'll ship to you. If you're in the UK or Europe, you're better off getting them directly from Phil's website, Visio Putting. And if you're in America, I think Preston Combs or Don Parsons sells them. You can find them on online. But if you're in Asia, Australia, I'm your man. So
cheers, man. So thanks for that. TK, welcome, mate.
Thank you.
Welcome. I thought some guys might recognize you. You have been on my channel before.
Yeah, Spain.
Yeah, I'm just going to screen share. Fortunately, I've got you in my. Here we go. In my.
That's not me. That's not.
Here you are. You're here. You're here.
Yeah.
So what I thought was interesting about this picture here. So this was February 2018. Is the facial hair. So you've changed your facial hair here. You've got more of the center beard.
Yeah, I'm starting to get my biker beard sorted.
Sorted. It's not completely finished, no?
No.
Okay. I'm catching you up, by the way.
Yeah, good.
I started this in the beginning of lockdown in Singapore. So that's 6 weeks. So might take me. Go on.
Yeah, I was going to say you look like you're about 15 in that picture on the left, and now you look like you're about 50.
Thanks. So yeah, guys, I'll put the link for this video down there because this was a couple of years ago. And TK's, I think you get a few messages from guys in Sweden. Obviously, TK's from Sweden, which we'll get into in a second. And TK, you've also appeared on my channel playing golf as well. I don't know if you remember that one from later on.
Yeah, right.
With Attila.
I tried to forget that one because I think we lost every match.
Yeah, I won't bring that up. So I think you, in the end, I think me and Attila won a couple of bottles of wine after the
yeah.
So, yeah, it was good. It was good. So TK, let's find out a little bit about yourself. So whereabouts are you from?
Stockholm, Sweden. Actually, my golf career started in 1966.
Really?
It was a display match between Arnold Palmer and a Swedish guy called Sven Tumba, and I was 5 years old. And I went there with my father and watched them, and I couldn't stop nagging my father, please let me start playing golf. So I started when I was 7 years old.
That's awesome, mate. That is awesome. Arnold Palmer. Wow. And that was in Sweden, yeah?
Yeah, Stockholm's Golf Club in Stockholm, Sweden.
Cool. So 1966. So when did you turn pro?
Never.
You never turned pro?
I started full-time in 2005, but I started really teaching in 1997.
Okay.
But at that time, I had a full-time job as a programmer. And after a while, I noticed that I did 2 full-time jobs, and I had to choose. And I chose the one I thought was fun.
Teaching golf?
Yeah.
So is that around the time you got into stack and tilt?
It's a long story. 97, I started teaching juniors, and then it quickly progressed. But I was frustrated. I was injured myself, bad back, and my students didn't get the results I wanted.
Yeah.
But at that time, I was teaching the stuff that my pros, my teachers had taught me. And that was the reason why my back was bad. It was the resistance model. Yeah. And often I couldn't play more than 4 holes and had to get off because I couldn't walk anymore.
So what age were you then, TK, if you don't mind me asking?
Once again?
What age were you at this time?
2000, I was like 40.
Okay. So were you, what sort of level of golfer were you? Because you said that you didn't turn pro, so you just got into teaching?
No, I had, when I was a teenager, I mean, I progressed pretty quick. I think I was about a 5 handicapper at age 12 and down almost to scratch in the teenager there. And I thought maybe I should try it. But I noticed very quickly that I didn't have the funds to pursue it. So no, I went the other way, working with other stuff, but played a lot of golf when I could, when my back was fine, short times. But then, as I said, I was frustrated as a teacher. And I started a journey looking for everything I could, reading, trying to find answers.
Yeah.
It took me around many detours, but then I found this book, the yellow book, The Golfing Machine. Yeah. Quite terrible book, really, but it's great. But it's damn, it's hard. It's a hard read. And but I thought, hey, here's something good. And I probably read that book like 200 times now. And it's more like an encyclopedia, really. You go in there and read stuff you're searching for. And things started to clear up for me. And then in 2006, I found the article from Golf Digest and online stuff about stack and tilt, and everything just made sense.
Is that the article with Aaron Badley? Is that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at that time, it started to be a lot on online stuff also. And in 2008, we managed to get Andy Plummer and Mike Bennett over to my club in Stockholm, Sweden, the Brobosta Golf Club. I think it was Javier Nigor who invited them, and I was there. And they came the year after. And then in 2010, they were in Väsby, also Stockholm Club. And yeah, the year after too.
So you're one of the first guys
in since 2006, but first time meeting Andy and Mike was 2008.
So you must be one of the first guys in the network.
I don't know. I'm an old bugger.
Well, it's great to have you on the channel, mate, because I think you've got a lot of experience, and I'm sure you can help out the listeners. I get a lot of questions coming through to me in my videos, and it's quite hard sometimes to answer them. And it's also good to get another golfer's opinion. Just to finish up, TK, you busy back at work at the moment?
Yeah, it's crazy, really. I don't know. You know, a lot of people work from home. We're not in hard lockdown in Sweden, but you know, social distancing and stuff, and that works well with golf, really. So I have more to do than ever. A lot of fittings, plenty of lessons. So I'm fully booked. It's great. It's great, really. It's good.
That's awesome. I know a lot of my listeners that from Sweden. I think they have lessons with yourself, TK.
Yeah.
So it's great to be part of this network.
I had a guy a couple of weeks ago, and he searched me up and he said, "Oh, I've been watching these Nick Taylor videos, and I saw you there." And he booked a lesson after that. So thank you, mate. Good videos.
It probably wasn't the one where I beat you at golf. Probably wasn't that video that you saw.
Okay, delete that.
So you've not been through the PGA system, is that right, TK, you said, for your coaching background?
No, that's a funny story, and I'm going to step on some toes here, probably.
Okay, go ahead.
That's what I do.
That's what you do.
I think this was in 1998 or 99, and there were a couple of guys in Sweden. Javier was certainly one of them that was questioning if the ball flight laws that the PGA taught was the correct ones, and some of us said, no, we don't think so. It didn't go down well with the PGA. A couple of years later, we had proof when TrackMan came, and we presented those data to the PGA. Nothing happened for a couple of years. And then we went back to the PGA and asked them, have you read our material? Yeah. And okay, it's correct what you're saying. And my question at that time was, well, so you think we're right, but I don't see that you have changed the PGA tuition. You're still teaching the old stuff.
Yeah.
And the answer I got from, I'm not going to mention his name, from the head principal of the school was, well, you know, Thomas, we've been doing this for a long time and it works well. And I went berserk. I said, you must be kidding me. Are you going to teach generations of new instructors based on wrong information? You can't be serious. I will never be with you, with this organization, if that's the way you work with things. So no, I'm not PGA. I will never be.
How about if things changed?
2012 was the first year at the school they actually started using the correct ball flight laws.
Oh, that's good. Better late than never, eh?
Yeah, and a couple of new guys came in. Niklas Eriksson from Jönköping, he's a good guy, Morad guy. And he started teaching the right stuff at the schools. And an old colleague of mine, not as old as me, he's younger, Anders Claesson also. So there's a couple of good guys coming in teaching at the PGA school now. So things changing, so that's good.
Awesome.
But I'm
perfect, TK. So I think we'll go through some of these questions, guys. So one question that come up the other day, TK, was obviously you weren't on the call last week, but a question that does come up quite a lot is stack and tilt. I'm hitting my irons really well, but I'm struggling with my driver. So is there any tips out there you could give to the listeners to help with their driving if they're struggling to hit their driver?
First of all, stack and tilt was designed around the swing for a driver. So the guys who says that, they don't do it right. But basically, I try to make it simple for my students, and I say, hey, it's the same swing. There's some different positions on the ground where you place the ball. You have a slightly wider stance and maybe a few degrees more tilt in the spine, but basically it's the same swing. So don't make it hard. Just don't. It's designed to hit the driver. So if you experience problems, you should probably go back to your authorized stack and tilt instructor and get sorted out.
Yeah, I always say the same thing, TK. I think you have to. It's very difficult to learn the golf swing, especially watching videos. Obviously, we can try and help you guys out as much as we can, but I think you can't replace going to see an authorized stack and tilt instructor. I think that certainly it works wonders. I think if you can actually go and visit an instructor. I know it's difficult for some guys that don't have access to in certain areas, but you can go online. I know Stack and Tilt Online Academy is up and running. If you go onto the Stack and Tilt website, you can go on there and have an online lesson. I also noticed some new dates have been launched out for Stack and Tilt USA. So I know a lot of my listeners here from the USA. There's some new dates that have been put out recently, I think in Florida. So I'll put the link to the website in the description after this call, so you guys can check that out.
Yeah. Let's see if we're able to make the Spain camp in November.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll see.
Well, I'd love to come back myself for that, mate. I would love to, but we just don't know what's going to happen. It's unfortunately in Singapore at the moment, we're still not working.
I question Nick about the driver came up at the beginning of today as well. Did you see that?
Yeah, Alfredo.
I think with the driver, it comes down to teaching someone the extension pieces through the ball, which is sometimes more difficult, or people don't need to do as much of it with an iron swing as they do with a driver swing. And so that applies to the backswing as well. There's more extension, there's more tilt. And then on the through swing, equally, there's more extension through the ball. And I think that's the bit that golfers get wrong who try stack and tilt and find that they struggle with the driver. They still swing down too much and they swing across too much, which, with a 7-iron or a 6-iron, you can get away with to an extent. But I think with the driver, you need that shallowing piece that a lot of people struggle with unless you're really kind of taught how to do it.
Yeah.
True.
So have you got any good drills for that, Rob?
I've probably got hundreds, mate. I think just tucking the hips, raising the belt, raising the handle through the ball is a good one.
Yeah.
So like keep the handle nice and high through the ball. I haven't got much space in here tonight, but just moving the hips forwards and up this way to elevate the club through the ball, rather than what a golfer who stays down for too long starts to do. They start to flex their arms to pull the club away from the ground. And as they start cupping this wrist, that steep on the downswing, as that starts to cup, it steepens the hit, opens the face to the path, and people start slicing. So keeping your arms straight and just raising your belt and pushing your hips forward is the bit you need to do to shallow the angle of attack. Yeah.
I'd say the hit hard, stop quick, or 90-90-90 drill, it works for so many things. So it's rather what you put your emphasis on to focus on. But that would certainly be an extension piece where you're not allowed to lift your arms. You have to do it with your body.
Last time we were on this call, Nick, you asked me a few drills, and that hit hard, stop quick one we mentioned 2 or 3 times. Like TK says, it just tidies up so many things. It gets the sequence of events organized very nicely, just thinking about one thing. There's our friend from Stevenage, Clive Jenkins.
Hi, Clive.
No, it's not Stevenage, Letchworth. Sorry, Clive. He'll shoot me for that one. Hope you're doing well in Germany, Clive. Good to see you, mate. Yeah, okay. George's experience is the same with his iron shots, but leaving the driver face open with the resulting push. I mean, it could be a couple of things. If it's a straight push, obviously the club face is a little bit too open when you're making contact with the ball. We've got to close it to the path a little bit. You could build that in at the setup. You could start with the face a little bit more closed and experiment with that. You could do it through a little bit of a grip change, a little bit of an attachment change, or even just trying to keep your lead wrist a little bit more flexed to keep the face close to the path. There's a few different ways you could try and overcome that, George. But again, best thing to do just to make sure you're really identifying the right issue is to go and see an authorized instructor.
Guys, if you've got any questions while I've got Rob and TK on the call, just post them in the chat. We've got a bit of time to go through some questions. Another question that gets asked quite a lot, guys, is stack and tilt a reverse pivot? And I'll like to get your input on what you'd say about that.
You trying to send me over the edge?
It's a question that gets asked a lot.
I'd start by asking, what's a reverse pivot?
Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah.
What's a reverse pivot? I mean, I don't know what a reverse pivot is. I've heard so many different explanations of it.
I can show you.
Go on, TK. What do you want?
A reverse pivot?
Yeah.
I don't have a club in here, but a reverse pivot must be something like this.
I don't know many golfers that swing like that.
If we're going to say that the standard, what some would call standard, we certainly wouldn't. What you'd call conventional is like shifting back on the backswing and then shifting through on the follow through.
Yeah.
Then a reverse pivot, I suppose, would be the opposite of that, which would be to move your weight like towards the target on the backswing and then to move it away from the target on the follow through. I guess that would be one description of a reverse pivot, and clearly stack and tilt's not that. The weight's forward, but it keeps moving forward. It's forward, and then it's more forward, right? So it doesn't go that way.
Yeah, I think that,
certainly not on the downswing.
I think that what you said there, Rob, about the backswing, I think people think that's a reverse pivot, but the reverse pivot would be moving the opposite direction. And like you say, the weight's always moving towards a target in the stack and tilt swing, whereas in the conventional swing, it would move to the right, then to the left. There's never a weight shift to the right side, if you like, in the stack and tilt swing. It's always moving towards a target.
Yeah.
So I think like
it's a lot of old stuff, confused people about how they're confusing pressure with weight or mass, where the mass of the body is. So a lot of confusion about that going around still.
Yeah, we touched upon this a little bit last time about the mass and the weight. And I think it's hard, obviously, unless you've got the right equipment to measure it, it's very difficult to do. So we try not to go down that road today. So Steve, if it wasn't called stack and tilt, what would you call it? The stigma of the name has turned off some potential golfers trying it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I'd call it, but I think that's interesting, isn't it? That something that's clearly defined gets criticized. I think that's remarkable, actually. I just think it's, if you actually sit down and think about it for a second, it's mind blowing that would be the case, that something clearly defined gets criticized, yet something vague and completely indiscriminate that no one could really put their finger on is what everyone's trying to teach. I mean, how ridiculous is that? I mean, it never makes any sense to me. The arguments that generally come up are tired old arguments that people kind of regurgitate because there's an ulterior motive. People are teaching alternative information, which is fine. I'm not expecting anyone to teach everybody to do follow our system, but it's interesting that when there's so many different swings out there that everybody is sort of saying is possible, not one person has written down that one of the hundreds of swings that are possible. There's maybe one or two examples of people who've stood by something and said, okay, well, this is how it works. So yeah, I think unfortunately attracts criticism for being very clear and defined, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, like you say, because there's a name, it's easy to attack. I think if you didn't call it a name,
yeah, we touched on that
well,
last time. I think if it was a human being's name, you know, if it was Andy Plummer's golf swing or something, it's harder to, it's more difficult in a way to attack an individual.
Yeah.
Whereas a name, which is generic name, is you know, maybe easier to criticize possibly.
Yeah.
But historically, if you go back, you know that Andy and Mike, they didn't want to call it anything. They were forced.
Yeah, I think a good point on that as well, TK. Because it's Andy and Mike, it wasn't Andy or Mike. It was because they were together. Maybe that's why the name came about.
No. They were more or less forced by Golf Digest to put a name on it.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I think it was Charlie that came up with, hey guys, let's call it
Tilt and Stack. Yeah.
Because that's what we're doing. And
yeah,
somehow it became the other way around, Stack and Tilt, but that was the story about it. But initially, Andy and Mike, they didn't want to call it anything because they said, hey, it's a golf swing and people's been doing it for forever. So.
But it's also unusual to have two instructors working together, working on a system for playing golf. Golf coaching has always been quite an individual thing, and people kind of have their way of doing it and not really sharing their ideas. I think that's different from that respect, that there's two guys that come together and have their system for coaching, which is helps thousands of golfers like yourself and me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't change the name.
No, not today. No.
TK, have you got any tattoos? I forgot to ask.
Do I? Yeah, all over the place.
Maybe another video.
And look here, guys. You see that?
The grid.
The grid.
Yeah, the grid.
That's absolutely epic.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, so hopefully
next level.
The name TK, because you have to change your tattoo.
No.
Okay, I've lost where we are. What's the first rule you would give to a beginner golfer, guys? Never learned golf before.
First rule?
First drill. What drill would you give?
Depends, but I would say 2 drills. Head on the wall to get them centered in the backswing.
Yeah.
Have them starting to move their legs in an efficient way. And then I would do half swings, stop with arms straight.
Yeah.
Like this. Works every time.
Yeah, I think one of the first things I would get golfers to do is really, once they've grasped how to hold and stand, would be to literally just hit the ground. Whether that's a half swing, quarter swing, whatever type of swing it is, I think just hitting the ground is one of the first things that you need to learn. There's a number of drills that you can do for that. I think the shoulder down is very important. Keeping the head against the wall, like you said, TK. Just learning the 10 words, I think, is very good for a beginner, and just practicing hitting the ground.
Yeah. The follow through piece is good to get in there early, I think.
Yeah.
Good.
So Clive said the bowler drill is great for the driver.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. Martin Hall, I don't know if that's the Martin Hall. Probably not. Only recently tried stack and tilt. Amazing. Instinct, great results. Easy to understand. Very teachable. Love it. Great system. Contact is so solid. Thank you. Emojis, loving it. Awesome. Michael Manavin said, well said, Rob. So I'm not sure, can't remember what bit that was about, but
I'm sure it was a very interesting bit I said.
I'm sure it was. Dale has struggled with the attachment section in the book. Can you explain the attachments as it's used in the book?
I haven't got the book actually next to me.
I've got it on my iPad. We'll come back to that. Right side swing, Rob.
Why'd you give me that one? I honestly don't know enough about it. Obviously,
I would say the same.
In this part of the world, it's quite popular. One of our good friends is an authorized instructor and has a lot of success with his students. So, yeah, I mean, the thing about, well, again, I don't know enough about it, so I can't really comment.
Yeah,
that's would be unreasonable. I've taught a lot of players who've had that come from that background, and I see some limitations in what they're able to do when it comes to hitting the ball high enough. And I feel like it also, they tend to over curve the ball, draw it too much. That's just my experience of some players who I've seen that have adopted that type of swing. But again, I think we've had plenty of experience of people who either come to us and say they've tried stack and till, or they've tried it themselves and they don't do very well with it because they're not doing it correctly. And I guess people who teach a right-sided swing would say that players who aren't hitting it high enough are probably not doing it as they're saying it. So I wouldn't like to comment too much.
Okay, I'm not sure, Dale, if this is the bit you're talking about, but I've just searched the attachments, and it comprises of 3 setup elements: the angle of the club face, the height of the butt of the club, and it's changed from setup to impact, and the placement of the hands on the grip. So they're talking about the attachment of the hands on the grip. So in terms of the grip, Rob, what would you say is important about the grip? I know you've done a video today on the daily circuit breaker lessons for Golf Tech.
I'd say there are multiple functional grips. I would say that your grip is really controlling the club face, and that's a piece that you would modify later on in the building of something to make sure the face is functional relative to the swing path. So there's lots of potential grips that can work. You've only got to look at any player who's been successful. There are a variety of successful grips. That being said, it's not something that you just kind of pass over because there's not one way to grip it. It doesn't mean you just ignore someone's grip. I like to see it in the fingers more so than up in the palm. I tend to prefer a grip that's slightly more turned versus one that's too straight, just because of the range of motion you get from the wrist joint. But they would be preferences that I'd start with if I had a brand new golfer. But if I had a golfer who was playing and who was fairly decent ball striker or a reasonable player, I certainly wouldn't jump straight in and change their grip if it looked a bit funky. So there are so many variations on the grip, and I think you just mentioned handle height and the way that you'd set up at P1 to hit different shots. So that the shot, if you want to hit it higher or you want to draw it more or you want to fade it, you'd set up with the handle and potentially even the grip and the attachment slightly different. So those are quite detailed conversations that they're difficult to have in a forum like this when you're trying to talk generally to somebody. But the answers are there. You want to hit it, more draw, there's different ways to have the attachment. You want to hit it straighter or take some of the curve off, you'd set up in a different way.
So hopefully that helps, Dale.
Yeah, grip is so dependent on the player's ball flight as well, isn't it? Like where you take a player's grip. I wouldn't just say to someone, hold it like this for the sake of holding it like this. You need to know what the ball's doing. So Dale, if you can give us a bit more about your ball flight and kind of what you struggle with, we could maybe give you a better answer.
That might help. Like you say, there's many different grips that work for different golfers and different height of the butt of the club as well. So I think it is an individual thing, but there is an answer. There's a system there.
Yeah.
Next question. The drill mentioned before, hit hard and stop at P8. I often see my students through the club throw the club maybe and struggle with the drill, how would you help them to maintain the handle forward? TK? How would you help them keep the handle forward?
At impact?
Yeah.
Is that what I would say that usually the people struggling with doing that drill successfully, if you watch what they're doing with their body, they're always late in terms of turning and extending.
Yeah.
So the club head swishes past them, and that bends everything. So the harder they turn, the harder they extend, it gets easier.
Yeah, I agree. Martin Hall again. Is it okay to let the right side dominate the downswing, covering the ball?
I guess it's a feel that could work for some players. I would certainly can understand how a feeling like that could help a certain player. So yeah, I guess it's okay.
I guess if they're tilting back, potentially, but obviously there is a limit to that. You don't want to be moving too far forward at impact.
I have a hard time to answering that because it's too vague.
Yeah,
it's feeling, I mean, your feelings aren't necessarily the same as mine, so I can't answer that question.
Okay, no, that's why it's great to have a system when you're coaching, having a video, and also measuring like we do at Golf Tech in 3D. I think that helps as well. Is Golf Tech in Hong Kong also teaching stack and tilt?
Sorry, accident.
Is Golf Tech in Hong Kong also teaching stack and tilt? So I know Michael Bygrave, a good friend of mine and Rob's, he's in the network for stack and tilt, and he works at the Golf Tech in Hong Kong. And I know Andy has been there to do some training in recent years as well. So Golf Tech has the system, and there are a number of stack and tilt instructors that do work at Golf Tech. I think the benefit of having 3D motion and video, I think, really helps us as a coach to help coach individuals. But I wouldn't say every Golf Tech is stack and tilt as such, but there are a number of stack and tilt instructors that work at Golf Tech locations. So I guess it does depend on the instructor that you're working with.
I would say I'm not working at Golf Tech, so I'm allowed to say this, I think. I mean, Golf Tech has an internal system teaching their teachers. And come on, guys, it's based on stack and tilt. Nick Clearwater.
There's a system very much for Golf Tech, and we use the Teaching Quality Basics, which has a range of motion, been measured, what the PGA Tour players do. There's a huge correlation in movement patterns. So all Golf Techs are teaching Golf Tech Teaching Quality Basics. All Teaching Quality Basics are within the PGA Tour's range of motion, and if you've got your eyes open, you'll see the comparison or the crossover.
Yeah. Steve, Golf Digest named it, so I think he's referring that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Clive, I've literally just started to try out the stack and tilt after watching Nick on YouTube. What's your best advice for someone who's new to stack and tilt? TK.
Go see an instructor.
Yeah, I think I say that in almost every video that I do. Definitely go and see an instructor or get some online coaching. I think that really helps. There's, if you're just sort of new to the system, I think maybe check out some videos on the 10 words. I think that's a good one to start with because it kind of breaks it down. I know Rob's done some videos on the 10 words as well. So maybe check out Rob's channel as well. I'm going to put in the description below Rob's channel, his website for online lessons as well.
And we have to congratulate Mr. Taylor for getting through 10,000 subscribers this week. So.
Oh, good.
Now you're embarrassing me.
Just remember us when you got 500,000 like Rick Shields and all that. Don't forget who your friends were, mate. All right.
Of course not. No. Do you know what? I did my PJ training with Rick.
Did you?
And yeah, he's a good lad, to be fair. Yeah, I
Yeah.
chatted with him a couple of years ago, and I bumped into him. But the reason I started the channel wasn't any reason for that. It was really just to really just get Stack and Tilt out there to the masses. That's why I started the channel, because when I first came on the network 6-7 years ago now, there wasn't really much information out there. And as soon as I mentioned to my students I was coaching Stack and Tilt, they kind of got a little bit off put by it. So I thought, which was ridiculous. I thought, like, this system works, and know a number of coaches that coach within the network who are awesome golf coaches. But unfortunately, there just wasn't the name out there was because it was a system or had a name. It wasn't always a lot of it was easy for people to knock it down, and especially when you got guys on Sky Sports and TV and saying that Stack and Tilt doesn't work. And I think a lot of that goes back to how it's different to conventional coaching. I think a lot of instructors that have been coaching for a number of years were almost threatened a little bit by Stack and Tilt. So I wanted to really just put the name out there about how good it was as a system and how it can improve every golfer at every level.
I did the same. I was pretty hard on telling people that, I'm doing Stack and Tilt. I had colleagues attending trainings, and they were kind of putting it down, like not telling people that they were doing it. And I did quite the opposite. I was like, hey, I'm Stack and Tilt.
I've got a tattoo.
Yeah. I got a tattoo.
I love the grid tattoo. That is awesome. So next question. Topping the ball with my driver. New to Stack and Tilt. Rob or TK?
Arm straight.
Yeah. Someone asked me this question actually a little while ago. I said, keep your arm straight.
Yeah.
But a lot of people think it's because they're lifting their head.
I would look at left arm and left wrist.
And hit balls with your arms literally like straight through to the follow through. Just like punch some drivers out there and get your arms feeling really straight.
Yeah.
I agree. Is Thomas going to play the piano for us? Well, we've got maybe 10 minutes left, TK. So once we get through these questions, I think we should have some time at the end.
Okay.
Maybe we can. Maybe you can do a guess the song. What do you normally do on your Facebook page?
Yeah, I do.
So TK is always posting different videos. You've got to try and guess the song. So maybe we'll do that at the end. Clive, wait forward, arm straight. Mike Monavian, who is your favourite S&T Tour player's swing? Mike Bennett.
Steve Holmes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Megan, I have a tendency to dump my head forward on the backswing when I tilt my shoulders. Any suggestions on how to stop this? So her head's dipping forward as she moves her left shoulder down, TK.
I would look at the legs, and I mean, it's the ratio between her extension and her side tilt. So you'd have to look at those pieces. I would probably put her on a kind of a balance board coming up from the ground and having the feet like this. If we have a standing a bit above the ground, I would put the toes out like that.
Like on a step. Yeah. Like on the edge of a step, so you can help with the balance.
Yeah. But actually, I'd have to see that first, what piece it is she's overdoing.
I've been helping Megan this week with her putting as well, and I even noticed in her setup with her putting, she tends to set up a little bit with the upper center a tiny bit forward, which we were going to come on to, but she's also left-handed, so it's her right shoulder that's going down too much, I think is what she's saying. The simple drill to feel the right amount of it would be to put your head on a door frame or on a door, and just do this way. Do that movement where you put maybe a stick across your chest or just cross your arms across your chest and just get that sense of blending the right amount of extension and tilt rather than, doing too much of something.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, guys. Thank you. Steve recently had an online swing review from Nick. Thank you, Steve. You're welcome, mate. Hopefully it helps. Marcus, any exercises I could do to help get club in front of thigh at P6 instead of left from front view? I tend to go through with hands club very low. So he's, I don't know if you can read that, Rob, that comment from Marcus.
Yeah, I think that's a reference to P6 from caddy view, where his hands are still like too far this way rather than more in front.
Yeah.
You could fix the look, but you may not fix the problem, because there's a reason sometimes that's coming out too quickly or too soon. Can be kind of an unconscious fix for the face. So it's a difficult one to kind of say for sure. You could make someone or give someone a drill to shorten the arc at P6 so that the release point is later, which I think is what Marcus is trying to work on. But that could be quite dangerous to tell someone to do that if, as they're swinging down, if for any reason this club's like too open.
He goes on to say, Rob, about P5, where his club is low on part of the biceps. I don't know if he's swinging too much
this way.
Out. Yeah, I think that's what you're referencing. Yeah. So would you work on something on the exit position there?
Yeah, I tried to straighten the path potentially. I mean, one of the first things that springs to mind is just trying to really work on straightening the right arm faster from P4 to 6. Just get that club moving more out with the straightening of the right arm, rather than the club being so far in at 5 and potentially it sounds like it's in at 6 as well.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's a difficult one to sort of try and fix when you can't see the swing and you don't know the ball flight. But there's the pattern of what he's describing is, I think he's got it too far in at 5, too far in at 6, and then there'll be, he's trying to obviously find the ball. And if you're swinging that far to the right, particularly with an iron, you're going to have all sorts of contact issues potentially. So
I would probably do the pump drill or hitting a divot further and further and further forward on the arc with that player. Pump drill is putting a ball up, swinging back, and pump down here a couple of times, and then release. Hitting the divot, just hitting the divot further and further and further forward to get a feel for it. I would do those 2 drills.
Thanks, TK. You getting ready for the your piano in a second? Got a couple of minutes left. Well, so I think maybe if you want to choose something, I don't know what you choose.
Okay, I don't know. I'll do something. Classical or?
I don't mind.
Okay.
What do you think will entertain the listeners?
Do a couple of. How many minutes do we have?
5.
Okay.
Billy Irvine, go on, TK. Please get Billy on. Thanks, TK.
Okay. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Finish? Okay. Or what's that?
Well, Rob?
Sorry,
Robbie.
I was muted. Yeah, sorry, I switched my mic off because I didn't want to interfere with the tunes. That was Queen, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Clive Jenkins has just said like Les Dawson. Do you remember Les Dawson? That's funny. There's a couple more questions on there, Nick. Do you want to grab? Should we grab those before we finish?
Yeah, I'm surprised we've still got 44 people watching, so not everyone has switched off after that, TK.
No, that's great news.
So well done, mate. Thank you. I've lost where we are now, guys.
We got to, does Nick have any clothes that don't have stack and tilt? And then the next question was using it for short wedges or 20 to 140 yards. Do you use it for wedges? And then another question about wedges as well, chipping and pitching. So those last three questions are kind of all the same thing. I mean, we've got to the end of this, and I guess we start talking about you want to make good contact, right? So that's the first fundamental of stack and tilt. So do I use that in chipping and short game? Absolutely. And for the most part, I don't know, it's Todd and Janssen asking the questions. I don't know what kind of standard they play to, but for the most part, golfers struggle around the greens is number one down to just the inconsistent contact and different ball flight they get because they hit the ground or they hit the ball slightly thin, and you have that problem. So you use the same concept for sure. Different release patterns for different types of shot, but in principle, the grid still exists. The handle height, the ball position, those kind of variables still exist.
I think you've done a lot of videos on your channel, Rob. Is that right?
Yeah, recently actually, I've done a few just before we shut down. Actually, just before we locked down in April, I posted 3 or 4 different short game drills from outside. So yeah, if you want to check those out, basic setup, then a high shot, then a low shot, and then like a one arm drill as well.
Okay, guys, we've almost come to the end now. I will put the link in the description for Rob's channel, his website, if you want to get in touch with him for online lessons and putting lessons. TK, I'll put in your Twitter. Would you use Twitter, Instagram? TK?
Yeah, it's fine.
I'll put in your links down there for guys that want to get in touch, maybe in Sweden. He's the guy to see. Just finishing up, guys. Local and S&T instructor in the south of England. So
Billy Irvine, Sam Quirk. It depends whereabouts in the south of England, but yeah. Whereabouts in the south of England, Andrew?
What's his name? He's down south.
Philip Bonifetti. Is that his name?
Yeah, Phil's down on the Isle of Purbeck, right in the south.
Yeah. So it depends where they are in the south of England, I guess. But guys, thanks for watching. TK, thanks for coming on, mate. Really appreciate
Thanks for having me, and hopefully I will see you in real life soon. It's been so long, guys.
Well, fingers crossed. You never know. We might be able to come over for camp in November. You never know, but we'll see. Hopefully. Rob, thanks again, mate. Really appreciate your time.
Pleasure.
Awesome.
Always fun. We managed to get it to work every other week right now. So let's see if we can actually get two weeks in a row.
You never know. Fingers crossed. Thanks, guys, for watching, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.